What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and happy Valentine's Day. I got a ton of requests to talk about my Valentine's Yu-Gi-Oh cards in today's video, but I already did that 1 year ago, so don't worry, I will link that at the end of today's video. But yeah, 1 year ago I already made that How Broken Were My Valentine's Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So for today's video, I wanted to still stay within that Valentine's Day theme, and we are talking about the heart of the cards. Well, more specifically, we're talking about cards with heart in their name. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the best Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have heart in their title. There are actually more than you might imagine. Maybe you can guess like 1 or 2 of these, but there are more cards than I really thought there were that had heart in their name, and we're going to talk about the best ones in today's discussion. As always, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. But anyway, let's talk about our first card, Change of Heart. This is probably the most iconic heart card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh, but don't worry, we have some others as well. Change of Heart, though, you know it. It's a classic iconic spell card from way back in old school Yu-Gi-Oh days. Just in case you don't know what Change of Heart does, it is a normal spell that simply says target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase. Now, every time I talk about Change of Heart in a video, I always get comments from people saying the card could go back to 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 copies. And while I understand where they're coming from, because on paper, compared to a lot of the other old school banned spells, this one is not nearly as overpowered. However, I would like to mention here that while Brain Control is currently at 3 copies per deck, it was nerfed heavily, and Mind Control, which is a strictly worse version of Change of Heart, was so good that they had to limit it. So I don't think that Change of Heart would ever go to more than 1 copy per deck while Mind Control is still limited, because clearly this card is better than Mind Control in every single way. I could see this card going back to 1 at some point in Yu-Gi-Oh's future, but as for right now, I would be pretty surprised to see it happen anytime soon. Next up, Heart of the Underdog, a classic Exodia continuous spell card that says during your draw phase, when you draw a normal monster or monsters, you can reveal it, draw 1 more card. Now, this is a classic Exodia card, like I said, but it's never been that viable in tournaments, because hypothetically, if you were to make a deck that was all copies of normal monsters and then 3 Heart of the Underdog and 1 copy of Exodia's head, you would run into the problem, even if you did draw the Heart of the Underdog, that eventually, while you're drawing through your entire deck, you will hit that Exodia head, which is an effect monster, or you'll hit the other copies of Heart of the Underdog. There were some ways around this. A lot of people would play Magical Mallet in these types of decks to try to reset their hand and draw better cards, but it was never the most consistent way to play Exodia, because at the end of the day, you had a bunch of normal monsters in your deck, and if you drew a hand that was all normal monsters, obviously that's not very good. But I'm well aware that it is a fan favorite card, and I do know that a lot of people do enjoy playing that deck. Next up, we have number 82 Heartland Draco, released in 2014's Premium Gold set. This was a very popular rank 4 monster back in the day, and usually was seen at 1 copy in almost every single rank 4 deck. Number 82 Heartland Draco is a rank 4 Earth Dragon Xyz monster with 2000 attack and 1500 defense. It is a generic rank 4 that takes any 2 level 4 monsters, and it says while you control a face-up spell, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card. This turn, this card can attack your opponent directly, but other monsters cannot attack. The added protection that this card has was pretty useful. So if you were playing a deck with a field spell, for example, then your opponent would not be able to attack this card, or perhaps if you were playing anything with Fire Formation Tenki, you could protect it that way as well. This card could potentially stick around for 2 direct attacks, which could be useful, especially back in 2014, where oftentimes duels would get very grindy. You would have lots of back row to play through, lots of monsters to play through. It was nice to have a card that you could summon and potentially attack your opponent directly for game. We don't see this card as much nowadays, but I don't think it's even that bad. Having the ability to attack directly is always going to be good on extra deck monsters because it gives you the opportunity to get wins where otherwise you might not be able to. Still, even if this card isn't that good anymore, it did have its time in the spotlight back in 2014. Then we have Elemental Hero Wildheart, one of the older Elemental Hero cards. This one was released back in 2005, believe it or not. Over the years, we've seen Wildheart occasionally in hero decks. I mean, you can search it with Stratos, it's pretty good against back row. In Duel Links, Wildheart was a lot better because you would play it in anti-meta decks, especially in formats where trap cards were very popular. You would maybe even play 3 copies of Wildheart and your own back row, and then you wouldn't have to worry about your opponent's back row as much as they would have to worry about yours. So Wildheart has seen play in the TCG a little bit and in Duel Links a lot, and also, yeah, it's an iconic monster from the anime. Maybe not the most iconic e-hero card ever, but it is one of the older ones, and I think a lot of people know about it. And there are, of course, a bunch of different fusions that use Wildheart as material. In the Marincess deck, we actually have 2 cards with heart in their name: Marincess Crystal Heart, a Link 2 monster, and Marincess Wonderheart, a Link 4 monster. Now, I don't know that much about the Marincess deck. I have played against it a few times. I tried playing it way back when they were first released. Still, from what I could find, Crystal Heart and Wonderheart are pretty common cards in any Marincess extra deck, so this deck is very Valentine themed. Finally, we have Trickstar Crimson Heart. Now, I don't think that this is one of the better Trickstar Link monsters, but it does have a few tops under its belt, so the card must be okay. I mean, people were willing to play this card in their Trickstar decks occasionally, so Trickstar Crimson Heart is a Link 2 light fairy monster with 2000 attack. It takes 2 Trickstar monsters, and it says each time a Trickstar monster or monsters is normal or special summoned to a zone or zones this card points to, gain 200 life points. You can discard 1 Trickstar card. Both players draw 1 card, but if your life points was at least 2000 higher than your opponent's when this effect was activated, you can draw 2 cards instead. You can only use this effect of Trickstar Crimson Heart once per turn. Like I said, not as crazy as some of the other Trickstar Link monsters, but still a very playable card, and one that topped several tournaments. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.